The relentless downpour hammered against the panoramic windows of the Sterling estate, a chaotic percussion against the reinforced glass. Inside the sprawling, art-filled study, Jack Sterling, a man of 35, was a portrait of intense focus, his chiseled features illuminated by the cool blue light of a stock market ticker on his widescreen monitor. The glow stood in stark contrast to the room's hushed ambiance, where the only other light came from a single, green-shaded lamp on his massive oak desk. Jack sighed, running a hand through his perfectly coiffed dark hair. Even at this ungodly hour, his bespoke suit remained crisp, not a single wrinkle betraying the long hours. He was a man forged in the crucible of late-night deals and boardroom battles, a discipline that had catapulted him into the ranks of the nation's youngest billionaires. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed, its deep tones marking 11:47 p.m. The night was a void of sound, save for the storm's constant drumming and the low, distant growl of thunder. Jack was just about to power down his terminal when a sound, completely out of place, made him freeze. Knock, knock, knock. The taps on the colossal front door were faint, almost swallowed by the tempest's roar. Jack's brow furrowed. Was his exhausted mind finally playing tricks on him? Who on earth would be at his gate on a night like this? Knock, knock, knock. There it was again, a fraction more insistent. Pushing back from his desk, Jack let curiosity win over caution. He moved through the main hallway, his leather-soled shoes echoing softly on the polished marble floor. Shadows cast by the elegant wall sconces seemed to writhe on the walls as he passed. Reaching the imposing front door, he paused, his hand hovering over the cold, ornate brass handle. An odd, inexplicable shiver traced its way down his spine. He had the strangest feeling that opening this door would irrevocably alter the course of his life. With a decisive breath, he twisted the handle and pulled the heavy door inward. The howling wind and a sheet of rain nearly blinded him. Blinking away the droplets, Jack's gaze fell downward, and what he saw stopped his heart. There, soaked to the bone and shivering uncontrollably, stood a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, her light brown hair plastered to her small, pale face. Her enormous green eyes, wide and luminous, stared up at him, a fragile mix of fear and desperate hope. She wore a faded pink pajama set, now drenched and clinging to her tiny frame, and her bare feet were caked in mud. "Please, sir," she said in a trembling voice, almost inaudible under the roar of the storm. "I'm lost. Can you help me?" Jack was momentarily paralyzed, his CEO brain struggling to compute the surreal tableau before him. But a deeper, more primal instinct took over. "My God, child," he finally exclaimed, dropping to one knee to meet her gaze. "Come in quickly. You must be free in." He gently guided her over the threshold, shutting the door behind them and silencing the storm's fury. The little girl shivered violently, her teeth chattering. "What's your name?" Jack asked softly, forcing a calm he didn't feel as 1,000 questions exploded in his mind. "Lily," she stammered, her lips blue from the cold. "Lily," Jack repeated, and a strange jolt, a powerful sense of déjà vu, washed over him as he said the name. "I'm James. Let's get you dried off and warmed up okay." He grabbed a plush cashmere throw from a nearby armchair and wrapped it around her small shoulders. As he leaned in to tuck it around her, Jack noticed something that made his pulse quicken. Lily's face, now clearer in the soft light of the foyer, had features that were disturbingly familiar. The set of her chin, the distinct shape of her eyes. It was like looking at a ghost from his past. He shook his head, pushing the thought away. This wasn't the time for wild speculation. A child needed his help. "Susan!" he called out, his voice echoing through the vast estate. "Susan, come here, please, it's urgent." The sound of quick footsteps followed, and Martha, the kind, middle-aged housekeeper who had been with the Sterling family for years, appeared at the top of the grand staircase. Her eyes widened at the scene below. "Oh, heavens!" she exclaimed, hurrying down the stairs. What happened? "This is Lily," Jack explained, his voice tight with a mixture of concern and bewilderment. "She knocked on the door. She's lost and drenched. We need to warm her up and figure out where she came from." Martha, ever the professional, sprang into action. "Poor thing," she murmured, her voice warm and reassuring as she approached Lily. "Let's take care of you, dear. How about a hot bath and some dry clothes?" Lily nodded timidly, her eyes still locked on Jack as if he were her only anchor in this bewildering storm. She opened her mouth to say something, but suddenly her eyes rolled back into her head and her small body went limp. "Emma!" Jack shouted, catching her in his arms just before she hit the marble floor. The girl's body was radiating an intense heat. "Susan, she's burning up with fever." "Quick, Mr. Anderson, take her to the guest bedroom," Martha instructed, her voice calm but firm. "I'll get cold towels in the first aid kit." Jack didn't hesitate. With Lily unconscious in his arms, he bounded up the stairs 2 at a time, his heart hammering against his ribs. Her head lolled against his arm, and he could feel the feverish heat seeping through her soaked pajamas. Entering a lavish guest suite, Jack gently laid Lily on the king-sized bed. She looked impossibly small and fragile against the vast, immaculate white sheets. Her face was flushed, and tiny beads of sweat dotted her forehead. Martha entered moments later, carrying towels, a basin of cool water, and a medical kit. "We need to get these wet clothes off her, Mr. Anderson," she said, already beginning to unbutton Lily's pajama top. Jack stepped back, feeling a strange mix of profound worry and helplessness. I'll call a doctor," he said, pulling out his phone. While Martha tended to Lily, Jack made a frantic call to his private physician, Dr. Williams. The doctor promised to be there in 20 minutes, storm or no storm. When Jack turned his attention back to the bed, Martha had already changed Lily into one of her own oversized nightgowns, which was comically large but dry and soft. A cool cloth rested on Lily's forehead, and Martha was taking her temperature with a digital thermometer. 13. 1 to Greffers, Martha reported, her voice laced with concern. "That's very high, Miss Anderson." A knot of dread formed in Jack's stomach. "Dr. Michaels is on his way," he said, more to himself than to Martha. He approached the bed, his gaze fixed on Lily's feverish face. How did this happen? Where did she come from? Why was a 5-year-old girl wandering alone in a hurricane? Martha shook her head, replacing the compress on Lily's forehead. "We don't know, sir, but the important thing now is to take care of her. The answers will come in time." The minutes that followed crawled by like hours. Jack paced the length of the room, his mind racing, then sat on the edge of the bed, anxiously watching every shallow breath Lily took. Martha worked quietly, methodically changing the cool towels and monitoring the girl's temperature. Finally, the doorbell chimed, its sound echoing through the mansion. Jack sprinted to answer it, personally guiding Dr. Williams, a distinguished man with silvering hair and an aura of calm competence, up to the bedroom. The doctor examined Lily with thorough, professional concentration. After what felt like an eternity, he turned to Jack and Martha. "She has a pretty serious case of pneumonia," Dr. Michaels informed them. "Her fever is high, but still manageable. I'll prescribe antibiotics and fever reducers. She'll need constant monitoring for the next 24 to 48 hours. Jack nodded, a wave of relief washing over him, quickly followed by renewed worry. "She's going to be okay, Doctor." Dr. Michaels offered a small, reassuring smile. "Children are surprisingly resilient, Mr. Ann. With the right care, she should make a full recovery." "But," he added, his tone growing more serious, "we need to know more about her medical history. Do you know who her parents are?" Jack and Martha exchanged a helpless glance. "No, Doctor," Jack replied. She showed up at my door less than an hour ago. We know nothing about her besides her name, Emma." The doctor frowned, clearly troubled. "I see well. For now, we'll treat what we can see. I'll leave prescriptions and detailed instructions if her fever doesn't go down in the next 12 hours, or if she shows any signs of worsening, call me immediately." After Dr. Williams departed, leaving a list of instructions and prescriptions, Jack sank into an armchair by the bed. Martha had driven to the nearest 24-hour Walgreens to fill them. Jack watched Lily's sleeping face, his mind a maelstrom of thoughts. Who was this child? How had she ended up on his doorstep? And why, against all logic, did he feel this powerful, inexplicable connection to her? The early hours of the morning ticked by. The storm outside had eased into a gentle, steady rain, its melancholy rhythm a backdrop to Jack's turbulent thoughts. Martha returned with the medications, and together they administered the first dose to a semi-conscious Lily, who swallowed the liquid without protest before sinking back into a deep, feverish sleep. "Mr. Anderson," Martha said softly, noting the exhaustion etched on her employer's face, "why don't you get some rest? I can keep an eye on her." Jack shook his head. "No, Susan, you've done enough tonight. Go get some rest. I'll stay with her." Martha hesitated, but years of service had taught her when not to press the issue. "All right, sir, but please call me if you need anything at all." After Martha left, Jack was alone with the girl and his swirling thoughts. The only sounds were Lily's soft breathing and the patter of rain against the window. He stood and walked to the window, watching the inky blackness slowly give way to the first gray smudges of dawn. His mind replayed the night's bizarre events, searching for a clue, any piece of logic to make sense of the situation. He was Jack Sterling, a titan of industry. By 35, he had built a financial empire that dwarfed those of men twice his age. His life was a meticulously scheduled sequence of board meetings, multi-billion-dollar acquisitions, and front-page features in the Wall Street Journal. And now, here he was, standing vigil over a sick, unknown child who had appeared out of a storm. Jack's gaze returned to Lily's sleeping form. Even in the dim light, he could see the uncanny similarities that had struck him earlier. The curve of her chin, the shape of her eyes. They were features he knew intimately, features he saw in the mirror every morning. But that was impossible. He didn't have any children. His life, dedicated solely to his business, had no room for long-term relationships, let alone a family. Yet, as he watched her, a profound unease settled in his chest, a strange cocktail of fear, curiosity, and a flicker of hope. He shook his head again, trying to banish the chaotic thoughts. He returned to the armchair, gently adjusting the cool cloth on Lily's forehead. Her fever seemed to have broken slightly, but her breathing was still a bit labored. The hours crept by as Jack wrestled with a storm of emotions and unanswered questions. Who was this mysterious girl? Why did he feel such a powerful bond with her? And what did fate have in store for them now? As the sun began to paint the horizon, Jack knew, with absolute certainty, that his life had been fundamentally altered. Whatever the future held, he was resolved to uncover the truth about Lily, and more importantly, to protect her with everything he had. With that firm resolve, Jack settled into the chair, his eyes never leaving her sleeping face, waiting for the moment she would finally wake up and perhaps begin to unravel the mystery of her arrival. The room was bathed in a comforting silence, punctuated only by Lily's soft breathing and the first tentative birdsongs of a new day. Jack felt the heavy weight of exhaustion on his shoulders, but refused to give in to it. Each time his eyelids drooped, he forced them open, determined to be awake when she finally stirred. As he watched her, he couldn't help but notice how peaceful she looked despite the fever. Her light brown curls framed her face like a halo. Her small hands curled into loose fists on top of the covers. It was an image of pure innocence and vulnerability that struck a chord deep inside him, a chord he hadn't known existed. The hours passed. Martha returned to check on Lily, changing her compresses and insisting Jack eat something. He politely declined, but accepted a mug of strong, black coffee. As the day wore on, Jack found himself lost in speculation, spinning wild theories about who Lily might be and where she came from. It was in the middle of one of these daydreams that he noticed a subtle change. Lily's breathing hitched, and her eyes began to move beneath her closed lids. He leaned forward, his heart pounding. Slowly, her eyes fluttered open. Confused at first, they darted around the unfamiliar room until they landed on him. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, green meeting blue, in a silence thick with unspoken questions. Jack opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, Lily blinked slowly, and her eyes drifted shut again, exhaustion pulling her back under. He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding and leaned back in the chair. She had woken up, even if just for a moment. It was a good sign. Dr. Williams had said it was just a matter of time and patience. With a deep sigh, Jack allowed a sliver of relaxation to creep in. The mystery was far from solved, but at least he knew she was on the mend. And while she slept, healing from whatever strange journey had brought her to his door, Jack would do everything in his power to ensure that when she truly awoke, she would find safety, comfort, and answers. The first chapter of their story had just begun, and the pages that followed promised to be filled with revelations, emotions, and perhaps the awakening of a paternal love Jack never knew he was capable of feeling. As the sun continued its arc across the sky, the Sterling estate sheltered its two occupants, a man lost in thought and a little girl lost in sleep, thrown together by a fate neither could have predicted, but which would change their lives forever. The morning sun streamed through the curtains of the guest bedroom, casting a gentle glow on Lily's face. Jack, who had finally succumbed to exhaustion in the armchair, stirred and awoke. His eyes opened to find Lily's curious gaze fixed on him. Her fever had broken, and while she still looked fragile, a spark of life had returned to her bright green eyes. "Good morning," Jack said softly, leaning forward. "How are you feeling?" Lily hesitated for a moment before replying in a raspy voice, "Better, I think. Where am I?" Jack gently explained the events of the previous night, watching her reactions closely. When he finished, he asked carefully, "Emma, can you tell me how you ended up at my door last night?" Lily bit her lip, her eyes welling with tears. I got lost," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "Mom and I live in a shelter. She's been sick for a long time and can't work." Jack's heart clenched at her words. "What happened last night?" "Mom wasn't feeling well," Lily continued. "We had no food, and I thought I could find something, but it was dark and raining, and I couldn't find my way back." As she spoke, Jack picked up on details that intrigued him. The location of the shelter, her mother's illness, even certain mannerisms she used. It all felt strangely familiar. "Emma," Jack asked hesitantly, "what's your mom's name?" "Sarah," Lily answered, and Jack felt the air leave his lungs. The coincidences were piling up too high to ignore. Sarah, the same name as his college girlfriend from years ago. Lily's age lined up perfectly, and then there were those physical similarities he couldn't shake. "James," Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Will you help me find my mom?" Jack swallowed hard, struggling to maintain his composure. "Of course, Emma will do everything we can to find her." Just then, Martha entered with a breakfast tray. Jack used the moment to collect himself, his mind reeling. While Lily ate under Martha's watchful eye, Jack stepped out to make a call. "Robert, it's James Anderson. I need your services immediately. It's a personal matter, extremely delicate." Hanging up, Jack glanced back into the room. The puzzle pieces were starting to click into place, but he had to be sure. If his suspicions were right, his entire world was about to be upended. With a deep breath, he prepared himself for whatever came next. The mystery surrounding Lily was just beginning to unravel, and he was determined to find the truth, no matter the cost. Returning to the room, he found Lily finishing her breakfast. She looked more alert, but a shadow of worry still lingered in her eyes. "Emma," he said gently, sitting on the edge of the bed, "I promise we'll find your mom. I have a friend who's going to help us look for her." The girl nodded, a small smile brightening her face. "Thank you, James. You're very kind." A lump formed in Jack's throat. The gratitude in her eyes was almost unbearable, especially given the suspicion growing in his mind. "While we wait for news," he continued, keeping his voice steady, "can you tell me more about you and your mom? Any detail might help us find her faster." Lily agreed and began sharing more stories about her life at the Harmony Shelter. Every word she spoke seemed to confirm Jack's suspicions, heightening both his anxiety and his anticipation. When she finally finished, exhausted by the effort, Jack helped her settle back into bed. "Get some more rest," he said, adjusting the covers. "I'll be here if you need anything." Watching her drift back to sleep, Jack felt the full weight of the situation crash down on him. The possibility that Lily might be his daughter, a daughter he never knew existed, was both terrifying and thrilling. With one last look at the sleeping girl, Jack slipped quietly from the room. He had things to do. John Smith's investigation would be crucial, but deep down, Jack already felt it in his bones. His life had changed forever. With determined steps, he headed for his office, ready to face whatever the future held. Jack's office was cast in the long shadows of the late afternoon sun. He sat at his desk, staring at an old photograph he held in trembling hands. In the picture, a young Emily smiled at the camera, her green eyes shining with the same startling intensity he now saw in Lily. A soft knock on the door pulled him back to the present. "Come in," he called, quickly stashing the photo in a drawer. John Smith, the private investigator, entered. He was a nondescript, middle-aged man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "James," he greeted with a nod, "I received the information you sent. I've already started the investigation." Jack stood up, anxious. "So, any news?" John frowned. "It's still early, but we have a few leads. We're checking every shelter in the city that matches Emma's description." As the PI shared the initial details, Jack's mind drifted back to his past with Emily. A picnic in Central Park, her laughter echoing in the air. A heated argument about his all-consuming career plans, her eyes burning with determination. The last kiss they shared, bittersweet and heavy with unspoken goodbyes. "James," John's voice cut through the memories. "So are you all right?" Jack shook his head, forcing himself to focus. "Yes, sorry, please continue." As John detailed his next steps, another light knock interrupted them. Martha entered, a concerned look on her face. "Excuse me for interrupting, Mr. Anderson, but Emma is asking for you. She seems a bit upset." Jack was on his feet instantly. "Thank you, Susan Robert. Can we continue this later?" The investigator nodded. "Of course, I'll keep searching and keep you updated." Jack headed upstairs, his mind torn between worry for Lily and anxiety about the impending revelations. Entering the room, he found Lily sitting up in bed, hugging her knees. "Emma, is everything okay?" he asked gently, sitting beside her. She looked up at him, her eyes teary. "I remembered more things about the shelter. I thought it could help find my mom." Jack's heart tightened. "Of course, dear, any detail can help tell me what you remembered." As Lily spoke, describing the neighborhood where the Harmony Shelter was located, mentioning a nearby park and a church with a distinctive bell, every word resonated deep in Jack's memory. He knew that place. It was the same neighborhood where he and Emily used to walk years ago. His suspicions crystallized with each new piece of information. The physical resemblance, Lily's age, the familiar locations. It all pointed to a truth he barely dared to entertain. When Lily finished speaking, Jack gently embraced her. "Thank you for telling me this, Emma. It'll help us a lot in finding your mom." Leaving the room, he grabbed his phone and called John Smith. "Robert, I think I know where the shelter is. Write down this address." As he provided the details, a storm of emotions churned within him: anxiety, hope, fear. The mystery was about to be solved, and he wasn't sure he was ready for the answers. Hanging up, Jack looked out the window as the sun dipped below the horizon. Tomorrow, they would go to the shelter. Tomorrow, he might finally discover the truth about Lily and Emily. And tomorrow, his life could change forever. Emily hesitated, her hands trembling slightly where they rested on the table. Jack fought the urge to reach across and steady them. There was a chasm between them, far wider than the physical space, filled with years of silence and unanswered questions. "James," Emily began again, her voice a bit firmer. I don't even know where to start seeing you here after all this time, and with Emma." Her voice broke, and Jack saw tears welling in her eyes. He wanted to say something, anything, to ease the palpable tension, but words felt useless. A faint sound from the adjoining room made them both freeze. Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring something unintelligible before settling down again. Emily immediately rose and moved toward the bedroom. Jack followed silently, pausing at the doorway as Emily approached the bed where Lily slept. The scene stole his breath. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, gently stroking Lily's hair, the love and devotion in her eyes almost tangible. "She means everything to me, James," Emily whispered, her eyes never leaving Lily. "Every day of the past 5 years, every decision I made was for her." A knot formed in Jack's throat. "She's an incredible little girl, Sarah. You've done an amazing job raising her." Emily looked at him, surprised by the kindness in his tone. For a moment, the tension between them seemed to soften, the barriers lowering. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for taking care of her when I couldn't, for bringing her back to me." Jack nodded, unable to find the words to express the whirlwind of emotions he felt. Seeing them together, their bond so unbreakable, made him feel both a part of it and a complete outsider. Lily shifted again, her eyes slowly opening. "Mom," she mumbled sleepily. "I'm here, sweetheart," Emily replied, leaning down to kiss Lily's forehead. "Everything's okay, you're safe now." Lily smiled, her eyes drifting around the room until they found Jack standing in the doorway. "James, you stayed." Jack's heart constricted at the simple joy in her voice. "I promised I'd stay, didn't I?" Lily nodded eagerly, sitting up. "Mom, can James stay for dinner, please?" Emily hesitated, her gaze flickering between Lily and Jack. So many questions hung between them, so many things unsaid, but Lily's hopeful smile was impossible to deny. "If James wants to stay," Emily said at last, "he's welcome." Jack felt the weight of those words. It was more than an invitation, it was an opening, a chance to be a part of their lives, even if just for now. "I'd love to," he replied, his smile directed at Lily, though his eyes remained on Emily. Lily scrambled off the bed, excited. Emily rose slowly. For a moment, they stood face to face, the air charged with unspoken history. "James," Emily began in a low voice so Lily wouldn't hear. "There's so much we need to talk about." Jack nodded, understanding the gravity behind her words. "I know Sarah and we will, but for now, how about we focus on Emma, give her a calm evening after everything she's been through?" Emily seemed relieved by the suggestion, a small smile touching her lips. "Thank you, James, for everything." Following Lily to the shelter's modest kitchen, Jack felt a mix of emotions: joy at seeing Lily happy and safe, gratitude that Emily had let him stay, and a burgeoning hope that this could be the start of something new. The future was still a minefield of difficult conversations and buried truths, but for this one evening, as they gathered around a simple meal, there was a sense of possibility in the air. Maybe, just maybe, the shattered pieces of their lives could finally start to fit together again. And at the center of it all was Lily, the little girl who had unknowingly brought Jack back into Emily's life, offering them both a second chance neither had ever expected. Night fell softly over the shelter, casting long shadows across the small building. Inside the modest communal kitchen, Jack, Emily, and Lily finished their dinner. The air was a strange mix of comfort and tension. Lily, blissfully unaware, chattered happily, her eyes bright as she looked between Jack and Emily. For her, this was perfect, her mom and the kind man who rescued her together. And then James told me a story about a dragon that couldn't fly, but learned how with the help of a tiny butterfly, Lily exclaimed, gesturing with her fork. Emily smiled, brushing a stray hair from her daughter's face. That sounds like a wonderful story, sweetheart. Jack watched them, a rush of emotion swelling inside him. There was something so right about seeing them together, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant to be in this picture. After dinner, Emily gently suggested it was time for Lily to get ready for bed. "But I don't want James to leave yet," Lily protested, her lower lip trembling. Jack leaned in, smiling reassuringly. "Don't worry, Emma. I promise I'll still be here when you come back. We have some important things to talk about with your mom. Okay?" Satisfied, Lily gave him a quick hug and ran off, leaving the two adults alone. The silence that fell was heavy with unspoken years. Emily began clearing the dishes, her hands trembling. "Let me help," Jack offered, standing. They worked in silence, the familiar domestic task a sharp contrast to the tension between them. When they finished, Emily turned to him, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and resolve. "James," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "there's something we need to talk about, something that should have been said a long time ago." Jack's heart hammered in his chest. He'd suspected it, of course, but he wasn't sure he was prepared to hear it. "Sarah," he replied, his own voice hoarse, "whatever it is, I'm ready to listen." Emily took a deep breath. "Maybe we should sit down." They moved to the small living area, sitting on opposite ends of a worn sofa. The space between them felt vast. "James," she began again, meeting his gaze, Emma is your daughter." The words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. Jack felt the world stop spinning. A part of him had known, but hearing it aloud was something else entirely. My daughter?" he repeated, his voice a faint whisper. Emily nodded, tears forming. "Yes, I found out I was pregnant a few weeks after the last time we saw each other. I tried to reach out to you, but—" Her voice trailed off, the pain evident in her eyes. "Why didn't you insist?" Jack asked, his mind reeling. "Why didn't you come straight to me?" Emily looked away. "I tried, James. I called your office countless times, left messages, but you were so busy with your career with the company merger." Jack closed his eyes, the memories flooding back. He had been so focused on building his empire that he'd shut everyone out. "I should have realized," he murmured, guilt consuming him. "I should have paid more attention." Emily shook her head, a sad smile on her lips. "We both made mistakes, James. I should have tried harder, should have gone to you in person, but I was scared, confused, and then things got complicated." Jack could tell there was more to the story, but he didn't press. Right now, Lily was all that mattered. "Sarah," he said softly, I'm sorry I wasn't there, that I didn't see what was happening, but I'm here now, and I want to be a part of Emma's life, if you'll let me." Emily studied him, searching his face for any hint of doubt. "Are you sure, James, your life is going to change completely? Being a father isn't easy, especially when you enter a child's life after so many years." "I'm absolutely sure," Jack responded without hesitation. "I know it won't be easy, that I have a lot to learn, but I want to try for Emma, for all three of us." Emily slowly nodded, a small smile forming. "Okay, we can try, but James, we have to take it slowly. Emma's been through so much, and I don't want her to get hurt again." Jack agreed, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. "Of course, we'll go at Emma's pace. I just want the chance to know her, to be part of her life." At that moment, soft footsteps approached. Lily appeared in the doorway, dressed in faded but clean pajamas. "Mom James," she called sleepily, "are you still here?" Emily opened her arms, and Lily rushed over to snuggle against her on the sofa. Jack watched, a surge of love so intense it almost took his breath away. "We here, sweetheart," Emily answered, kissing the top of Lily's head. "Actually, we have something important to tell you." Lily looked from her mother to Jack, her green eyes, which Jack now realized were a perfect replica of his own, wide with curiosity. "What is it, Mom?" she asked. Emily glanced at Jack, seeking confirmation. He nodded encouragingly. "Emma, honey," Emily began softly, "remember how you've always asked about your father?" Lily nodded. "Well," Emily continued, "it turns out your dad is closer than we thought." She paused, looking at Jack. "In fact, he's right here." Lily followed her mother's gaze, her eyes settling on Jack. Silence stretched as the little girl processed the information. "James is my dad," she finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jack's heart raced. This was it. He slowly knelt in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level. "Yes, Emma," he said gently. "I'm your dad, and I'm sorry I wasn't here before, but I'm here now, if you'll have me in your life." Lily looked at him for a long moment, her green eyes searching his face. Then, without warning, she launched herself forward, throwing her arms around his neck in a tight hug. "I knew it!" she exclaimed, her voice muffled against his chest. "I knew there was something special about you." Tears burned Jack's eyes as he wrapped her in his arms. He looked over her head at Emily, who was also crying silently. "I'm here now, Emma," Jack murmured, his voice thick with emotion, "and I promise I'm not going anywhere." The next few minutes were a blur of hugs, tears, and whispered promises. Once the initial wave of emotion passed, they settled on the sofa, Lily curled between them, full of questions. "Why weren't you here before?" she asked, her voice free of accusation, just pure childlike curiosity. Jack exchanged a look with Emily before answering. "It's complicated, Emma. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and decisions that hurt others without meaning to. But what matters is that I'm here now, and I really want to be part of your life, if you'll let me." Lily considered this solemnly. "Okay, but you have to learn how to braid hair. Mom always says Dad should know how to braid hair." Jack laughed, his heart swelling. "I promise I'll practice every day until I'm perfect at it." As the night went on, they talked, Jack absorbing every detail about Lily's life. During a lull, he noticed Emily seemed pale, tired in a way that went beyond emotional stress. "Sarah," he said gently, "are you feeling okay?" She forced a smile. "I'm fine, just a bit tired." But Lily looked at her mother with concern. "Mom, did you take your medicine today?" Jack's heart tightened. "Medicine, Sarah. What's going on?" Emily sighed. "It's nothing, James, just a heart condition I've been treating for the last few years." But Jack could see by Lily's expression that it was more than nothing. "Sarah, please, if something is wrong, I want to help." Emily hesitated, glancing at Lily. "Emma, sweetheart, could you get me a glass of water?" As soon as she left, Emily turned to him, her expression serious. "James and I have a heart condition," she said quietly. It's not immediately life-threatening, but it does require constant treatment that, well, I can't always afford." Jack felt like he'd been punched. The thought of Emily raising Lily alone while battling health issues was unbearable. "Why didn't you come to me?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "I would have helped Sarah, you know that." Emily gave a sad smile. "Things were complicated, James and I didn't want to be a burden." "A burden," Jack repeated, incredulous. "Sarah, you're the mother of my child. You could never be a burden." Just then, Lily returned with the water. Jack watched them, his mind racing. He couldn't change the past, but he could change the future. "Sarah," he said, his voice firm, "I want to help with your treatment with everything. Please let me do this." Emily hesitated. "James, I can't accept." "Yes, you can," Jack insisted gently. "Not for me, but for Emma. She deserves to have her mom healthy and happy." Lily, understanding, joined in. "Please, Mom," she pleaded, "let Dad help." The word Dad sent a fresh wave of emotion through Jack. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Okay," she finally agreed, her voice low. "But let's take it one step at a time, all right." Jack nodded, immensely relieved. "One step at a time," he echoed, "and the first step is getting you the treatment you need." In the days that followed, Jack threw himself into his new reality. He found Emily the best doctors, ensured she had every medication she needed, and spent every possible moment with Lily. The transition wasn't seamless. He stumbled through his new role as a father. But with every smile from Lily and every small improvement in Emily's health, he knew they were on the right path. 2 weeks after the revelation, he found an apartment near the shelter, spacious and comfortable, with enough room for everyone. Morning sunlight streamed into the new apartment, casting a golden glow across Lily's sleeping face. Jack stood in her doorway, marveling at how much his life had been turned upside down in just a month, and how he couldn't be happier. A slight noise from the kitchen drew his attention. He found Emily preparing breakfast. "Good morning," he said softly. She turned, a small smile on her lips. "Good morning, James." He accepted the cup of coffee she offered, and they stood in a comfortable silence, savoring their new morning ritual. "How are you feeling today?" Jack asked, studying her face. Since starting proper treatment, he'd noticed every subtle change. Emily shrugged, but her smile was genuine. "Better. Dr. Patel says the new medication is working. I still get tired easily, but it's progress." A wave of relief washed over Jack. Her treatment had become his top priority. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, resisting the urge to reach out and touch her. The line between them was delicate, a mix of rediscovered closeness and years of distance. Hurried footsteps interrupted the moment as Lily burst into the kitchen, her hair messy, but her face alight with a bright smile. "Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Dad," she exclaimed, hugging Emily first, then Jack. His heart warmed every time she called him Dad. "Good morning, Princess," he responded, kissing the top of her head. "Ready for the big day." Lily's eyes widened with a mix of excitement and nerves. "I think so. What if the other kids don't like me?" Emily knelt beside her. "They'll love you, sweetheart. Just be yourself." Jack felt a pang of guilt for all the moments like this he'd missed, but he was determined to make up for lost time. "Your mom's right, Emma," he added, "and remember, if you need anything, just call us. We'll be there in a heartbeat." Lily nodded, looking more confident. As she ate, Jack and Emily exchanged a glance. This was a big step for all of them. Lily starting a new school, Emily beginning her full-time treatment, and Jack completely reorganizing his professional life. Half an hour later, they were in the car, heading to Oakwood Elementary School. At the school gates, Lily hesitated. Jack's heart ached. "Hey," he said gently, kneeling to meet her gaze. "You're going to do great, and remember Mom and I will be waiting when school's over." Lily threw her arms around him. When she pulled away, there was determination in her eyes. "Okay," she said, "I can do this." With one last hug for Emily, Lily walked toward the gate. They stood side by side, watching until she disappeared. "She'll be fine," Emily murmured. He nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, she will. She's strong like her mom." Emily looked at him, a soft smile on her lips. For a moment, he felt that old spark between them. Clearing his throat, he broke the moment. "Shall we go? We need to get you to your appointment." The rest of the day was a blur. While Emily was at her appointment, Jack reorganized his work schedule, drastically reducing his office hours. His assistant, Jessica, was startled. "Are you sure about this, Mr. Anderson?" she asked. "These meetings are crucial for the merger with the Johnson Company." Jack smiled, feeling a peace he hadn't felt in years. "I'm sure, Clara, the merger can wait. My family can't." Family. The word still sounded strange, yet incredibly right. When he picked Emily up, he found her chatting animatedly with a nurse, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "James," she exclaimed, "Dr. Patel said my treatment is progressing better than expected. If things keep going like this in a few months, I might even consider going back to work part-time." Her joy was contagious. Without thinking, he pulled her into an embrace. When they pulled apart, there was a sparkle in her eyes he hadn't seen in years. "That's wonderful, Sarah," he said, his voice full of emotion. "Let's celebrate. How about a special lunch before we pick up Emma?" Lunch was cheerful, a comfortable conversation that transcended the years of separation. When it was time to pick up Lily, they found her in the schoolyard, chatting happily with two other girls. Spotting them, she ran over, a huge smile on her face. "Mom, Dad, it was amazing. I made 2 new friends, Lily and Sophia, and the teacher said she really liked my drawing." On the way home, she chattered excitedly, sharing every detail. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Jack and Emily met in the living room with cups of tea. "It was a big day," Jack commented. Emily nodded, a soft smile on her lips. "Yes, it was, James. I wanted to thank you for everything, for the treatment, for Emma's school, for this apartment. I miss for being here." Jack's heart raced at her sincerity. "Sarah, you don't need to thank me. Emma is our daughter. You are." He hesitated, unsure how to define what she was to him now. "You're my family." Emily looked at him, her eyes shining. For a moment, he felt an overwhelming urge to lean in and kiss her, but the moment passed. "Good night, James," Emily said softly, standing up. "Good night, Sarah," he replied, watching her leave. Alone, Jack reflected on the changes. There were still challenges ahead. Navigating their resurfacing feelings for each other wouldn't be easy. But as he thought of Lily's smile and Emily's determination, he knew every challenge was worth it. With a contented sigh, he got up. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't facing the future alone. He had a family. The following weeks were a whirlwind of adjustments. Jack, used to the rigid corporate world, found himself navigating the organized chaos of life with a 5-year-old. "Emma, did you grab your lunch?" Jack asked one particularly hectic morning. "Yes, Dad," Lily's muffled voice answered as she struggled with her shoelaces. He smiled, still marveling at how easily she called him Dad. He knelt to help her. Emily walked in, looking a bit pale but resolute. "Is everyone ready?" Jack glanced at her with concern. "Are you sure you want to come with us today? You look tired." Emily forced a smile. "I'm fine. Dr. Patel said it's normal to feel a bit exhausted with the new medication. Besides, I don't want to miss family day at Emma's school." Lily jumped excitedly. "Yes, we'll show my drawings to Dad." Jack stood, instinctively offering a hand to help Emily up. For a moment, their hands touched, and that familiar electric current passed between them. They quickly separated, but the moment lingered. Family day at school was a surreal experience. Sitting in a tiny chair beside Emily, watching Lily proudly present her art projects, he felt a wave of emotions. "And this," Lily said, holding up a colorful drawing, "is our family look, Dad. I drew you as tall as a giant." Jack laughed. "It's wonderful, Emma. We can hang it on the fridge when we get home, okay?" She nodded eagerly. "She looks so happy," Emily commented quietly, tears in her eyes. "Hey," he said gently, placing a hand over hers. "Are you okay?" She quickly wiped her eyes. "Yes, it's emotional, you know, seeing her so settled, so happy, and having you here." Without thinking, he pulled her into a hug, ignoring the other parents. "I'm here now," he murmured into her hair, "and I'm not going anywhere." When they pulled apart, a soft flush colored her cheeks. The rest of the day passed in a blur of school activities. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Jack found Emily on the balcony, gazing at the city lights. "Hey, Penny, for your thoughts," he said softly, offering her tea. "I was just thinking about how much things have changed so quickly," she admitted. "Sometimes I catch myself wondering if it's all real." He stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's real, Sarah. We're here, all of us." She turned to look at him, vulnerability in her eyes. "James, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done." "You don't need to thank me," he replied, his voice husky. "Sarah, you gave me the greatest gift possible. Our daughter, all I'm doing is trying to make up for lost time." They stood in silence, the air charged with unspoken emotion. The urge to kiss her was overwhelming, but he hesitated. She seemed to sense it too, taking a step back. "We should get some sleep," she said quietly. "Tomorrow will be another busy day." He nodded, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. "You're right. Good night, Sarah." "Good night, James," she replied, casting him one last glance before heading inside. Alone on the balcony, he reflected on the past few weeks. Despite the challenges, he'd never felt more alive. Every smile from Lily, every step forward in Emily's health, filled a void no business success ever had. And then there was Emily. He couldn't ignore the feelings that resurfaced whenever they were together. But things were different now. They were parents with a complicated past. Any step toward romance would have to be carefully considered. With a sigh, he went back inside. Lying in bed, he mulled over the future. For the first time in years, he felt truly at peace. Whatever tomorrow brought, he would face it with his family. The morning began like any other, a comforting routine, but the universe had other plans. Jack's phone rang, his assistant's name flashing on the screen. "Mr. Anderson," Jessica's agitated voice came through. "You need to see this." Seconds later, a link buzzed on his phone. He opened it, and his stomach dropped. On the front page of a major tabloid was a photo of him, Emily, and Lily leaving the school. The headline screamed, "Billionaire Jack Sterling's secret child revealed." "Damn it," Jack muttered. "James, what happened?" Emily asked, entering the kitchen with Lily. He hesitated. "Emma, honey, why don't you get your backpack? I need to talk to your mom for a minute." As soon as Lily left, he showed Emily the article. She went pale. How did they find out?" she whispered. "I don't know," he said, frustrated, "but this is going to complicate things." Before they could discuss it, his phone rang again. It was his mother, Eleanor. "James Anderson," Eleanor's cold voice cut in, "is there something you'd like to tell me?" Jack closed his eyes, a headache forming. "Mom, now's not a good time. Can I call you later?" "No, you may not," she answered firmly. "I'll be at your office in an hour. We need to talk." She hung up. He glanced at Emily. "It was my mother," he explained. "She wants me to meet her at the office." Emily nodded slowly. "You should go. I'll take Emma to school." "Are you sure with all this Meta attention?" "We'll be fine," she assured him, though he could see the worry in her eyes. "Just try to fix this, okay?" An hour later, Jack faced his mother across his desk. Eleanor Sterling was an imposing woman. "So," she began, "you have a daughter." It wasn't a question. He nodded. "Yes, I do. Emma is 5. Eleanor narrowed her eyes. "And you only found out now." "It's complicated, Mom," he replied, "but Emma is my daughter, and Sarah and I are doing our best to be a family." "A family?" Eleanor repeated with disdain. "James, you worked hard to get where you are. You can't just throw it all away because of a mistake from the past." His blood boiled. "Emma is not a mistake. She's my daughter, and I love her." The argument continued, and when he finally left, he was exhausted and furious. Arriving home, he found Emily consoling a tearful Lily. Children at school had seen the news and teased her. They said I'm a dirty secret, Lily sobbed in his arms, that you didn't want me before. His heart broke. He hugged her tightly, murmuring words of comfort. That night, Emily confronted him. "This isn't working," she said, her voice trembling. Maybe it's best if Emma and I leave for a while until things calm down." He felt like he'd been punched. "What no, Sarah? We can't give up now." "I'm not giving up," she argued. "I'm trying to protect you, your career, your reputation." "To hell with my career," he exclaimed, surprised at his own vehemence. "You're my family. I'm not losing you again." Emily looked at him, tears in her eyes. "James, there's something you need to know, something I should have told you a long time ago." She took a deep breath. "When I found out I was pregnant, I tried to tell you I called your office countless times, left messages, but you never returned my calls." Guilt crashed over him. "Sarah, She raised a hand. "Let me finish. Frustrated and desperate, I went to your mother." Jack froze, a sense of dread settling in. "Your mother received me coolly," Emily continued. "She told me you were about to become CEO, that a child at that time would ruin your career." The words hit him like a freight train. "My mother, she knew," he whispered. Emily nodded sadly. "She convinced me to stay away, said it was for your good, for your career. I believed her. I thought I was doing the right thing for you." A toxic mix of anger and guilt churned inside him. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. She sat beside him, taking his hands. "Because we need to be honest with each other if this is going to work, and because I think we need to confront your mother together." He opened his eyes, meeting her determined gaze. He nodded slowly. "You're right," he said. "No more secrets, no more manipulations. We'll face this together." That night they made plans. Tomorrow they would face Eleanor Sterling as a united front, as a family. The road ahead would be difficult, but they were determined to overcome it, side by side. Morning arrived with a palpable tension. Jack and Emily moved silently, exchanging looks filled with apprehension and resolve. Lily, sensing the heavy atmosphere, was unusually quiet. "Emma, sweetheart," Emily said softly, kneeling down. "Today you're going to spend the day with Aunt Susan. Okay, Dad? And I have something important to do." Lily nodded, biting her lip. "Are you two going to fight again?" The innocent question twisted Jack's heart. He joined Emily, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder. "No, Princess, we're not going to fight. We just have some grown-up things to sort out. I promise that when we get back, we'll do something fun together, all right." Lily's face lit up with a tentative smile. "Can we have a picnic in the park?" "Absolutely," Emily replied, kissing her forehead. When Lily left, Jack looked at Emily. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked. She nodded, her chin raised. "Yes, it's time we face this head-in for Emma, for us." The drive to the Sterling estate was tense. As they approached the imposing gates, Jack's stomach clenched. The car stopped, and for a moment, neither moved. "Ready?" Jack asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," Emily replied. Together they walked to the front door. The bell echoed ominously. The door opened to reveal Eleanor Sterling, impeccably dressed, a flicker of tension betraying her composure. "James," she said, her gaze flicking over Emily. "Come in." The foyer was as grand and intimidating as Emily remembered. Eleanor led them to the living room. "Sit down," she commanded. They sat close together on the sofa. Eleanor took the armchair opposite them. Silence reigned, broken only by the ticking of a grandfather clock. "Well," Eleanor finally said, her voice cold, "I imagine you've come for explanations." Jack's suppressed anger bubbled to the surface. "Explanations," he repeated. "Mother, you hid from me the fact that I had a daughter for years." Eleanor didn't flinch. "I did what I thought was best for you, James," she replied firmly. You were on the verge of becoming SE CEO. Everything you worked for was about to come true. A child at that moment would have ruined it all. Jack shot to his feet. You had no right to make that choice for me, he exclaimed. It was my life, my daughter. Emily placed a calming hand on his arm. Eleanor watched the interaction sharply. I only wanted to protect your future son, she said, her voice softening slightly. You'd sacrificed so much, worked so hard, I couldn't let you throw it all away over a mistake. Emma is not a mistake, Emily interjected, her voice calm but firm. She's a wonderful child, smart and loving. She deserved to have her father in her life from the start. Eleanor turned to Emily, her eyes narrowing. And you, why did you agree to stay away? Why didn't you fight harder? Emily sighed, looking tired. Because I believed you, she admitted. I believed I was doing what was best for James for his future, and because I was scared and alone, and you made me feel I had no choice. Jack looked at Emily, filled with a surge of guilt and admiration. Mother, he said, turning back to Eleanor, can't you see how much you hurt us, how much you took from us years we'll never get back? Surprisingly, it was Emily who spoke next. Mrs. Anderson, she began, her voice unexpectedly gentle. I understand why you did what you did. You acted as a mother wanting to protect your son, even if you did it the wrong way. Both Jack and Eleanor looked at her, shocked. But what's done is done, Emily continued. What matters now is the future Emma deserves to know her entire family, including her grandmother. The silence was broken by the sound of the front door opening. Rapid footsteps echoed, and suddenly Lily burst into the room, followed by a breathless Martha. Mom, Dad, Lily cried, stopping short at the tense scene. Her eyes landed on Eleanor. Who are you? Eleanor froze, her wide eyes fixed on the child who was the spitting image of a young Jack. Emma, Jack said softly. This is your grandmother, Elizabeth. Lily tilted her head, studying her. Hi, Grandma, she said timidly. Eleanor seemed to lose her composure. Tears shone in her eyes as the mask she always wore cracked. Hello, Emma, she replied, her voice trembling. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Jack watched, conflicted. Part of him still seethed, but another part longed to forgive. Lily, oblivious, took a small step forward. Do you have pictures of Dad when he was little? Mom says I look like him. A tiny smile touched Eleanor's lips. Yes, dear, I have many pictures. Would you like to see them? Lily nodded eagerly, and Eleanor stood, holding out a hand to her granddaughter. Before leaving, she cast a look at Jack and Emily, a look filled with regret and a plea for forgiveness. Left alone, Jack pulled Emily into a tight embrace. Thank you, he murmured into her hair. For your strength, for your understanding. I don't think I could have done this alone. Emily pulled back slightly, looking into his eyes. We a family now, she said softly. We face things together. He nodded. Watching Lily interact with Eleanor for the first time, he felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could heal the wounds of the past and build a future where everyone had a place. The afternoon sun cast a golden light through the windows of the Sterling estate, illuminating the living room where the family gathered. The silence that once felt tense now seemed lighter, occasionally broken by Lily's soft giggles as she flipped through a photo album with Eleanor. James observed the scene with a mix of conflicting emotions. Seeing his daughter interact so naturally with her grandmother was surprisingly moving, yet the hurt and anger still simmered beneath the surface. Eleanor raised her eyes from the album, meeting Jack's gaze. There was a vulnerability in her eyes he rarely witnessed. James, she began, her voice trembling. I'm sorry for everything. The apology caught Jack off guard. His mother was a proud woman who seldom admitted mistakes. I know what I did was unforgivable, Eleanor continued, but I'd like the chance to make it right if you'll let me. Jack felt Emily squeeze his hand gently, offering silent support. "I'm not sure I can forgive so easily, Mother," Jack replied, his voice low. "You took years from us, years we can never get back." Eleanor nodded, accepting his harsh words. "I understand, but please, allow me to try to make amends. I want to know my granddaughter, to be part of your lives." She hesitated before adding, "And I'd also like to help with Sarah's treatment, if you'll let me." Jack tensed, ready to refuse, but Emily intervened. "That would be very kind of you, Elizabeth," she said softly. "I'm sure we can discuss the details later." Jack looked at Emily, surprised by her willingness to accept the offer. She gave him a small, encouraging smile. "For Emma's sake," Emily murmured, so only Jack could hear. He sighed, nodding reluctantly. "All right, Mother, we can try." Eleanor's face lit up with hope. "Thank you, James. I promise I'll do my best to earn this second chance." At that moment, Lily approached, clutching the photo album. "Dad, look! Grandma has pictures of you dressed up like the Easter Bunny." Jack couldn't help but smile sheepishly as Lily showed off the photo, giggling all the while. The sound of her laughter seemed to melt some of the tension in the room. In the days that followed, the family began a slow process of reconciliation. Eleanor devoted herself to getting to know Lily, spending hours telling stories about Jack's childhood and learning everything about her granddaughter's likes and interests. Emily, surprisingly, became a bridge between Jack and Eleanor, smoothing rough edges and facilitating difficult conversations. Her understanding and willingness to forgive inspired Jack to lower his defenses gradually. Jack began to see his mother in a new light. He noticed the genuine effort she made to connect with Lily, the way her eyes softened when she watched her granddaughter play. He saw moments of vulnerability and regret he had never noticed before. One afternoon, while observing Eleanor teach Lily how to bake cookies in the mansion's kitchen, Jack felt something shift inside him. The anger he'd carried for so long began to give way to a reluctant understanding. His mother had made a terrible mistake, but she was trying to fix it. "She's really trying," Emily commented softly, joining Jack. He nodded, pulling Emily closer. "Yes, she is, and I think I'm starting to see that." The path to full healing was still long, but at that moment, watching 3 generations of his family together, Jack felt a surge of hope. Perhaps, with time and effort, they could truly become the family they should have always been. The following months brought significant changes for the Sterling family. With Jack's unwavering support, Lily's care, and surprisingly, Eleanor's dedication, Emily finally saw her health improve steadily and significantly. Hospital visits became less frequent, and the sparkle in Emily's eyes, once dimmed by illness, returned in full force. One sunny afternoon, during a routine checkup, Dr. Patel delivered the news everyone had been hoping for. "Sarah, I'm pleased to say you've fully recovered," he announced with a warm smile. The exam room erupted in joy. Jack hugged Emily tightly, tears of relief and happiness in his eyes. Lily jumped up and down with excitement, while Eleanor, who insisted on being there, smiled discreetly but with obvious satisfaction. The news seemed to mark a new chapter in their lives. With Emily's health finally restored, the family could focus on building a future together without the constant shadow of illness looming over them. For Jack, the months of close contact with his mother had been a journey of self-discovery and forgiveness. Watching Eleanor strive to make amends, seeing her interact affectionately with Lily, and offering genuine support to Emily gradually melted the barriers he'd built up. One evening, while they strolled through the estate's gardens after a family dinner, Jack finally expressed his feelings to Eleanor. "Mom," he began softly, "I want you to know, I understand now. I understand why you did what you did, even if I don't agree with the decision." Eleanor stopped, turning to face her son with tearful eyes. "James, Let me finish," he gently interrupted. "You acted out of love, thinking you were protecting me and my future. And though it was a mistake, I know it came from a place of love, and for that, I forgive you." The tears Eleanor had been holding back finally fell. Without speaking, she pulled Jack into an embrace, one that carried years of regret, love, and now hope. That moment marked a turning point in the family dynamic. Feeling truly accepted again, Eleanor threw herself even more into helping plan the family's future. She became a valuable source of advice and support, especially when Jack began to consider the next big step in his relationship with Emily. It was during a picnic in Central Park, a promise kept for Lily, that Jack realized he didn't want to wait any longer. Watching Emily laugh carelessly while playing with Lily, he knew the moment was right. That night, after Lily was tucked into bed, Jack led Emily to the apartment balcony. The city lights sparkled in the distance, creating a romantic backdrop. "Sarah," he began, his heart pounding, "these past months have been, well, a roller coaster. But in all the highs and lows, one thing became crystal clear to me. I don't want to spend a single day without you and Emma." Emily looked at him with wide eyes, beginning to realize where the conversation was headed. Jack dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "It's Sarah Thompson. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife, of officially forming the family we should have always been?" With tears shining in her eyes and a radiant smile, Emily answered, "Yes, James, 1,000 times yes." The couple sealed the moment with a passionate kiss, years of love, separation, and reunion culminating in this perfect instant. The news of the engagement was met with great excitement by Lily, who could barely contain her happiness at the thought that her parents were finally getting married. Eleanor, upon being informed, surprised everyone with her enthusiastic reaction. "That's wonderful," she exclaimed, embracing Emily warmly. Then, with a twinkle in her eye, she added, "And I have the perfect idea for the ceremony." Jack and Emily exchanged curious glances. "Why not hold the wedding here, at the Manion?" Eleanor suggested. "In the gardens, perhaps? It would be a beautiful symbol of a new beginning for our family." The proposal took the couple by surprise. Jack looked at Emily for her reaction. After a moment of reflection, she smiled and nodded. "I think it would be perfect," she said softly. Jack felt his heart swell with love and gratitude. Here they were, planning their future together with the support and blessing of the entire family. It was more than he had ever dared to dream. As wedding preparations began, Jack couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them there. From the shadows of the past to the light of the present, they had faced challenges, overcome obstacles, and found their way back to each other. Now, with Lily dancing excitedly at the thought of being a flower girl, Emily radiant by his side, and Eleanor fully immersed in wedding planning, Jack knew they had finally come home. The future spread out before them, shining with promise, a new story waiting to be written. Dawn arrived with a gentle breeze that made the leaves of the centuries-old trees dance across the vast grounds of the Sterling estate. The sky, a tapestry of pastel hues, seemed to herald the arrival of a new chapter in the family's life. The air was charged with anticipation and an almost tangible sense of new beginnings. Jack woke early, his heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. Today was the day he and Emily would finally formalize their union, sealing not just their love, but also the extraordinary journey that had led them here. Adjusting his tie for the umpteenth time in front of the mirror, he couldn't help recalling every event that had brought him to this moment. On the other side of the estate, Emily was being attended to by a small army of women. Her mother adjusted the veil with trembling hands. Longtime friends applied the finishing touches to her makeup and hair, and to everyone's surprise, Eleanor Sterling stood by with words of encouragement and comfort. "How you look absolutely stunning, dear," Eleanor said, her eyes brimming with tears she held back. Emily smiled, still marveling at how her relationship with Jack's mother had transformed. "Thank you, Elizabeth, for everything." A minor commotion at the door announced Lily's arrival, dressed in an adorable flower girl dress. Her eyes widened at the sight of her mother. "Mom, you look like a princess!" Emily knelt carefully, mindful of her dress, and pulled Lily into a hug. "And you, my love, look like a fairy from a storybook." The distant chime of bells signaled that the time had come. Emily took a deep breath, feeling a wave of emotions wash over her. Joy, nervousness, love, all swirling in her chest. "Are you ready?" Eleanor asked softly. Emily nodded, her smile growing wider. More than ever. In the garden, guests were already seated. Soft classical music filled the air, blending with birdsong and the whisper of leaves. Jack stood at the makeshift altar, his best friend and best man at his side, offering quiet reassurances. When the music changed to signal the bride's entrance, everyone turned. Lily appeared first, scattering rose petals along the path, her smile lighting up the entire garden. Jack felt his heart swell with love at the sight of his daughter, the living bond that had reunited him with Emily. And then there she was. Emily, radiant in her white gown, walking slowly through the floral aisle. But what took Jack's breath away wasn't merely the sight of his bride, but who accompanied her. Eleanor, tears in her eyes and a genuine smile on her face, guided Emily by the arm. The image was powerful. Eleanor leading Emily to the altar was more than a wedding tradition. It was a symbol of acceptance, forgiveness, and a new beginning for the entire family. It was living proof that time and genuine love can heal even the deepest wounds. Upon reaching the altar, Eleanor kissed Emily's cheek before placing her hand in Jack's. The moment was laden with emotion, years of misunderstandings and heartaches finally laid to rest. "Take good care of her," Eleanor whispered to Jack, her voice thick with emotion. Jack nodded, unable to speak around the lump in his throat. He held Emily's hand tighter, their gazes locking in a look that spoke more than any words could. The ceremony was simple, but deeply moving. Jack and Emily exchanged vows that spoke not only of love, but of perseverance, second chances, and the family they had built together. Lily stood by them, holding the rings and occasionally making adorable remarks that drew laughter from the guests. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the garden erupted in applause and cheers. Jack pulled Emily into a passionate kiss, while Lily jumped for joy beside them. It was a scene of pure happiness, a family finally whole and united. The reception that followed was a lively celebration of love and new beginnings. The Sterling Estates garden, once a symbol of tradition and at times separation, now pulsed with life and joy. Elegantly decorated tables dotted the lawn, and twinkling lights hung from the trees, creating a magical atmosphere as day faded into night. During the reception, Jack surprised everyone with a special announcement. Asking for the guests' attention, he climbed onto a small stage with Emily and Lily at his side. "Today is a day of celebration," he began, his voice rich with emotion, "not just for the love between Sarah and me, but for the incredible journey that brought us here. A journey that taught us about forgiveness, second chances, and the power of family love." He paused, glancing affectionately at Emily and Lily before continuing. "Our story made us realize there are many families out there facing similar challenges. Parents and children separated by circumstances, misunderstandings, or difficult choices. That's why Sarah and I have decided to create the New Beginnings Foundation." A ripple of surprise and approval spread through the crowd. This foundation will aim to help families reconnect, offering legal, emotional, and financial support to those seeking a second chance to be a family. Emily stepped forward to continue the announcement. "We believe every family deserves the opportunity for healing and reconciliation that we've had. The New Beginnings Foundation will be our way of giving back and spreading hope." The applause that followed was immediate and enthusiastic. Many guests approached with offers of support and ideas for the new initiative. At that moment, Eleanor approached the stage, a determined expression on her face. "James, Sarah," she called, joining them. "I'd like to offer my help in leading the Foundation's charitable efforts." Jack looked at his mother, surprised and moved. "Mother, are you sure?" Eleanor nodded, a soft smile on her lips. "More than ever. I spent years making decisions that negatively affected our family. Now I want to devote my time to helping other families avoid the same mistakes." Her offer was more than a gesture of goodwill. It was a testament to her own journey of redemption, a genuine desire to turn past mistakes into something positive for the future. Emily was the first to respond, pulling Eleanor into a tight hug. Jack joined in, and soon Lily was there too, creating a group embrace that perfectly symbolized their shared path of healing and unity. The party continued late into the night, full of laughter, dancing, and celebration. Jack and Emily shared their first dance as a married couple, their eyes never leaving each other as they twirled beneath the twinkling lights. Lily took turns dancing with both grandfathers, her contagious laughter echoing through the garden. As the night wore on, guests began to leave, leaving behind an atmosphere of joy and fresh starts. The Sterling family, however, remained in the garden, none of them wanting the perfect day to end. It was Eleanor who suggested they take advantage of the moonlight for a small family picnic. In a matter of minutes, blankets were spread on the soft grass, and a selection of wedding desserts was brought outside. There, under the starlit sky, 3 generations of the Sterling family gathered. Eleanor and Jack's father played with Lily, teaching her to spot constellations. Emily's parents shared funny stories from her childhood, making everyone laugh. Jack and Emily watched the scene, their hearts full. Sitting side by side, hands intertwined, they soaked up every detail of this precious moment. "Can you believe it?" Emily whispered, resting her head on Jack's shoulder. "After everything we've been through, here we are, all of us." Jack kissed the top of her head, a wave of gratitude washing over him. "It's more than I ever dared hope for," he admitted, "and yet it feels so right." They watched Lily run back to Eleanor, begging to be lifted up so she could see the stars better. The scene, their daughter in the arms of the grandmother who once separated them, was a powerful reminder of how far they had come. "You know," Jack reflected, "as painful as our journey was, I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge, every obstacle brought us here, made us who we are." Emily nodded in understanding. "It taught us the value of forgiveness, of perseverance, showed us that true love can overcome anything." At that moment, as if sensing she was the subject of their conversation, Lily ran back to her parents. She flopped down between them, her little body warm and her laughter infectious. "Mom, Dad, Grandma said we can do this every month. Can we please?" Jack and Emily exchanged amused looks before answering in unison, "Of course we can, sweetheart." Lily let out a squeal of delight before snuggling between her parents, her eyes already starting to droop with the day's excitement. There, under the starry canopy, with the gentle hum of family chatter in the background and Lily's comforting weight between them, Jack and Emily felt a profound sense of peace settle over them. It was as though the universe had finally aligned all the pieces, placing them exactly where they were meant to be. The Sterling family, once fragmented and marred by secrets and hurts, was finally whole. More than that, it was at peace, healed, united not just by blood, but by a shared journey of redemption and unconditional love. As the night deepened and the stars shone overhead, Jack and Emily knew that this was not an ending, but a new beginning. A beginning full of promise, of shared dreams, and of a love that had stood the test of time and adversity. And so, in the same garden where just hours before they had exchanged vows of everlasting love, the Sterling family celebrated not just a wedding, but the rebirth of something precious. A second chance, a new chapter, a love story that was only just beginning.